It's interesting because I've had quite a few Navy SEALs and former Green Berets on, and they're probably the only people that talk about evil. You know, Jocko talks about this, and Tim Kennedy, and they said there's evil in the world. I don't talk to many guests that say that because I don't think they've seen it. And I would say I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, indeed, there's collective evil in this world. When you spend a lot of time in places that are either failed states or on their way to being failed states, or dictatorships that are sort of holding on and losing ground by the day, or active war zones, you see a lot of things that, as per the Western paradigm, shouldn't be happening. We live in a very advanced society. You know, we have incredible medical care. Why is there a kid cut in half over there? It doesn't make logical sense. Whereas when you've spent time in those parts of the world, especially with me in the private security sector as well, I'd have big teams of locals. I'd have, you know, whether they're drivers or CPOs, close protection officers, or even the cook would have stories of his family being affected, right? So when you're around the locals and you're seeing how they're impacted by years and years of this instability and conflict, it really does make you question the worldview that you have growing up in the West, that humans are inherently good, governments want to look after you, you know, taxes are there for a good reason. It's a bit of a red pill, if you will, on the inherent good of humans, and especially politicians. Anyone who's spent enough time in conflict zones will have a pretty healthy distaste for the political class.
Because they're making life and death situations with
for
just
other people. Yeah.
right, and sometimes for their own benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not sending their own kids off to die.
Right.
That song War Pigs by Black Sabbath, very relevant to this day. You know, the generals sitting around a fire sending young youths off to die. That's exactly what's happening to this day, even though it was written about the Vietnam War.
Is it hard sometimes to come back to normal society when you've seen that darkness and to try to look at the good in all of people? Because you can't unsee that stuff.
Yeah, indeed. It hasn't been for me. I've got a lot of brothers who gave a lot more to that system than me. You know, I wasn't special forces. I was infantry, then intelligence. So, you know, some guys have really given a lot more of their souls and their minds to the system than me. So I won't speak for them. But for me, especially spending years and years in these places as a civilian, as a private security, let's say security manager or security contractor, many different terms it's given. I don't think humans are good anymore. It's not a struggle. I think humans are, I'm not going to swear, but I think humans are, I think they're self-centered. I think they want the most gain for the least effort. I think their empathy is very tribal. They care about their own people, they don't care about anyone else. I think we are inherently violent, dangerous animals, and I'm okay with that. I'm competent in that realm, and I think every man should be. But to think otherwise, I think, is quite naive. I don't believe that Western society is in any way civilized. You look at Hurricane Katrina, when there was no water and power for a few days. People were being cut up and murdered in the streets. I was on ground in numerous countries during the Arab Spring, assisting with numerous evacuations. Egypt overnight went from being one of the most heavily policed states in the world. So they said 1 in 70 people within Egypt were either police or intelligence services or informing into. It's a huge network, taxi drivers, people in restaurants, hotels, huge network of informants to maintain a real secure police state. Overnight that was gone. They were just non-existent. You know, all law enforcement, everything gone. And of course there weren't many firearms, so people were chasing each other down the street with swords. Neighbours were knocking on each other's doors with swords, looking to settle that beef they'd had for years that had been held down because of this police state. So I don't think humans are in any way good or benevolent animals. I think we're evil and dangerous. And you take away the constraints of either a dictatorship, as you want to call it, in developing countries, or the comfort bubble that you see in the West, backed up by the violence of law enforcement being just around the corner. That's when you see real humanity. I don't think there's any argument or counterpoint to be put forward other than the fact that humans are selfish and evil and violent. That's our natural way of being. That's why we have to fight, right? That's why you feel that urge to get into the ring. You know, it's who we are as a species.
And that can be really empowering if you're a male, if you know that's maybe who you are, and then you can start to think about how you can control that man and bring a man that's going to be beneficial to society. And it's not going to be an easy job. It's going to require training and discipline and restraint and
exposure to risk. Yeah, exactly. How do you know that you can keep a cool head and execute your training, maintain situational awareness when there's bits of hot metal flying around if you haven't been in it? You need to be exposed to risk, I think, as a man. There are many different ways to do that.
Okay. Talk about the transition from military to, private life, business, I guess. A lot of guys can't make that transition.
Indeed, and I've really tried to help mentor a lot of veterans on their way out.
It's interesting because people would look at a veteran or even a special forces guy and think, oh man, they're so good at this. And yet I've heard over and over again, it's a very hard transition to make.
100%, because you're still part of a system. It's uncomfortable, you'll be challenged a lot more than civilian life, but your rent's paid for you, your bills are covered. There's a mess hall to go and eat if you don't feel like cooking. And you are, right, be here at this time, now we're deploying for this many months. Your life is dictated for you to come out of that. Especially, I find if you've been in the game for more than, say, 8 to 10 years, it is very difficult to really ever become not that. It's very difficult to transition into the civilian world. For me, it was, I'd say, pretty smooth in that I was schooled on how to be a civilian by intelligence professionals. So I had that. I was civilianized, if you will, so it really helped. But I remember at some point, I'd say 25, 26, and I was just in the process of getting rid of the uniform while still in the system. And I went to a friend of mine who I'd met at Krav Maga class, a good friend of mine. I did a lot of that for a good 5 years. It was a big part of my life back in the day. And I said to him, bruv, you work in corporate. Can I come into your office just to see what people are doing in those buildings? As a mid-20s, military guy, I had no idea what people are doing in all these buildings. I literally didn't know. So he brought me in, he sat me down, he said, well, there's an HR function, there's a finance function, there's marketing. And I was like, it's a bit like the military in a way. We have our ops guys, we have our logistics guys, we have soldier management, career management. So it's a lot of what you are doing in the military is very similar to what's in the civilian world, but you're not really aware of that until someone briefs you on it. I'd say a lot of things like a lot of leadership structures, things like crisis communications, things like leadership training that you see in the business world, a lot of it comes directly from the military. But a lot of veterans aren't really aware of that or empowered to say, right, my skills and what I've been through is actually very relevant for this civilian world. I just need to change the way I talk. I need to typically calm down a bit, change the way I dress, and I can actually do very well in this. I am under no illusion that I wouldn't have attained what I've achieved, in the business world if it wasn't for my background both with the intelligence piece and the military.
Okay, so you kind of unlocked it, looked at it differently,
yeah,
and
had a lot of help
too.
Had a lot of help.
Okay.
Really fortunate like that. And the good thing about the private security sector is you're working with everyone is a veteran pretty much, and so they can help you. Hey man, I remember when I went for my first interview in the private security sector, the first thing that my then boss or boss to be said was, you're going to have to grow your hair and relax your dress standards. You look way too green. So I was still, even after all the intelligence work, I was still being told, mate, you still smell of that kind of guy. We need to bring you down to fit into this high-end corporate environment and to talk to the clients that we have coming in.
Interesting.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.